Assalamu alaikum to everyone, and today is the 24th of the August. Uh, so, the base purpose of the observations, as per my usual routines, I was last night in my room and I was observing again the lot of issues. When I just push myself again in the law statutes in the solitary places, which factors grossly appear to be a point of living in Pakistan, is a question for today. The concept of today, I just because August is the month of very pure natural observation of ourselves as well. So when I was observing that the whole of the central obligations, the provisional orders, the central litigant in interest, the observation order, the provincial autonomies, the judicial dictations, the police orders, the substantive and the procedural SOPs, the issues of the females, the civil issues of the men dominant societies, the aggression of the both sectors, the ultimate depressed channels of the females' reproductive growth rate, the amounted valued amounts of those males which are heavily drug peddlers in the public society found in the public sector, and the a lot of the issues in the Pakistan in the observation of the rights of the females after having no observation of their self existence. This is my observation regarding the females in Pakistan, that very die-hard the question of today, because 24th of the August, and I observed that after just waking up, I just observed by myself that what is the purpose of the life of a female in Pakistan is a question. Today, I'm going to classify the classification of the purpose of the females reproduced type of already reproduced and having suffering from the custodial matters of their children in the civil court. A female which is already produced and suffering from the custodial matters in the civil court is a secondary question targeted for the rich side of the individuals. But despite of that, when I observe that the females and the males, both sectors under the poverty belt lines, after just trying to read out the interpretation observation of the same in the question lines of the constitutions through the writ petitions and into the converted areas, appears to be the implied in question observation of the Republic of the Pakistan as per my observation order. When I observed that the conditional orders and the conditional areas of the females reproduction already growth devalued amounts, and if the females are already more than men, then and there are a lot of homogeneous non-transparent sort of the criminal defection clauses applied by the to the females by the men dominant societies in the Pakistan. This is a bleak question of the restoration of the humanitarian negligence under the writ petition article 184 of the Supreme Judicial Council by myself as to observation of the reflexive hours of my neurology and my legal observation by myself. As per my usual record, last night during the 24th of the August, I was again very busy while just observing the confined areas of the Republicans. And when I observed that the reproduction growth declined valuations in the Pakistan and the optimal observations of the females not observing the rights, yes, the men dominant society 75%. I'm not saying that 75% is not accused or co-guilty of the having the reciprocate uh, criminality with the females areas. The question is that when a female is produced and the reproduction organ of one person, and the second person is not observing to take admiration to the same. In Pakistan, it is a settled and unsettled principle that if a female under the custodial matter appears to be a female of a third person or the next person, the third and the fourth men in the Pakistan is not ready to acknowledge the up bringing of the said female of the second person, and so does it apply with the minors under the Guardian and Minor Ward Act 1890, as per my observations. When I just implied to observe the whole humanitarian defection clauses, I was I was out of my senses always. That senses out of my senses mean hereafter that I'm out of social circle, because when I observe that there are approved vagabond criminals in the public sector in always ready to have the modesty of the females through the marriages, and in the said marriages what comes forward in the public sector is the non-custodial matter in the said court of the same judge as well. I observe these factors as well. So when I observe this question that in the said area of observation, the question of the social anxiety with the females, another question of the females unreconciled reproduction, and observing that the parents under the defection clauses in the Pakistan 98%. I observe these factors. The 98% of the parents of the Republicans, they are not into the habit of the observation of the females observation order as well. They are in the habit of the re unreconciled and devalued position of the females through the males, and the non-custodial matters of the same in the public sector is a landmark obligation question of today. As a civil administration of the justice, the fabrications in the courts cases appears to be the second point. The NAB Ordinance 1999 Section 9 and 10 would be applied in the punishments to those non-custodial cases as well, to seal their assets. And I figure this remedy. So when I was observing that the females in the Pakistan are basically under the subordinate men dominant societies in the fabrication of the observation of the negligence of their said well versed observation of the fiscal disabled transitional and non-transitional areas, which factors lead them into the public sector have to public tranquilizers for the ascertainment of the bread and butter, and after that they be found as to raising of the non-custodial matter of the observations of the females provided non-provident funds in their household appliances issues as well. Thereby I observed that the implied judgment of mine as to reverse the observation orders of the Republicans defected individuals in the Republic sector. I just observed that they are always just playing with the others, despite of just observing themselves in the public seats what to represent a cause of action in the public sector. The central observation of the educational inclined transitional areas would have to be channelized by the public by themselves, and thereby when I observe the ground conditions of the educational institutions in the Pakistan, I observed that the education become a business enterprises in Pakistan, and thereby the taxes should be impliedly raised over the educational institution via section 234 and 231I of the income tax ordinance ITO through the offshore record non-digital entries as well. The question in that sense appears to be very implied in discretion, that if the females the question is that if the females are not in the position and were not in the position, then the males would be not in the positions. And as a nation, when we want to have the nation a perfect nation, there would have been perfect females. But the question of today is that the females are not perfect, and they said females want to expect the perfect males. Somehow, when we multiply the imperfect females with the imperfect males, the resultant immoral children would be accrued in that said house as a resultant issue. That the children would be immoral because he or she would have the genes from inheritance, but not by itself. The question that you will teach the set individual children to be a part of the society, but the said individual children would settle down yourself into the president in the household issues as well. The questions everywhere, and the questions and answers of the said questions are not existence. I just observed when the questions of the civil rotations in the public sector, the non-custodial and the custodial judgments should have been in the narration by me, because I observed that the question of the acquisition of the right is a question, but when a person is willingly in the relationship with the female, and this said female is also willingly in the relationship, the second question interlinked with the same subject line, that when the both groups are in the interlinkage of their relationships, then both of them will lie for the life. Yes, this is the called natural justice, which you cannot run away. The question that the public will observe the transitional areas of the said issues, and you will just say that the public is blind. Now you were in trouble. First, you yourself were in trouble, suffering from social anxiety, business enterprises, COVID 19, transitional transactions, and you have another co guilty associate female in your life. I am representing 95% non-custodial grounds of the federal marital discoveries under the federal marital inspections in the central Pakistan. This is the baseline ground. When they come forward in the higher courts, High Court of the Pakistan, under the High Court order, what they have, they plead guilty after expunging, after the extinguishment of their all transitional areas. They expect from the Supreme Court or the High Court that the said courts will provide them the sufficient task based jobs, sometimes home task based, sometimes official task based, and sometimes rotation in civil observation task based official jobs. My question again raised here as a landmark question of today, August 24th, as they settle down that question in the public sector. That when the females and the males both are trying to settle away the common questions of the non-transitional area, thereafter the question of their parental negligence would not be appeared in the public sector. This is a term. I never intend to insult anyone. The parental negligence is a term which is not observed in the public sector, because I observe this, that the public is not willing to observe the parental negligent driven children reproduction. You yourself as a human have no time in your life, and you are there willfully, and after that observation of the facts that the society indifferences a male, any male have total idea regarding that he is, or if be married, have a insufficient balance of convenience to challenge the sections of the higher courts. But the said individuals always have the transactions through the names of the artificial composers, and the said case always have the implicate interrogations via the Article 46A of the Kanun Shahadat order under the Article 199 also. So the question again stand here, the substituted or the artem partem term will be substituted there, that they are being heard to the other, and they're trying to be heard to the third party, and the third party is trying to reheard the fourth party. The question again becomes under the res judicata and res sub judice. Section 1011 of the CPC. Thereafter, what to expect out of the same in the public sector, what the turnover of the said individual in the practical life of the said foolish man. The Republicans have the problem in their inheritance. They, from inheritance, is suffering from a disease which I invented. That is called not to understand the personal issue, but to reflect the private issue to the other and to expect the modesty from the third person. This is not going to happen in your life. You will rescue yourself in everywhere and you will suffer challenges, but you cannot undone the same. The question regarding the same is that the reproduction, over reproduction, inclined the females and the males of the females are suffering from the issues. These are the civil interpretations by Advocate Gulraiz King for the day of 24th August. And last night I was again sleeping in my room, and before sleeping I was in observing the legal observations, and I have slept less than 4 hours, but I was rescuing the laws. So my questions are interpretation clauses in the Pakistan, and I just reflect them. Sooner or later, the public will be not greater. It is you which yourself try to become the part of the public. Stay blessed.